Reverend Al Hathaway, Union Baptist Church. How in the world did you get 700 people down to State Center last Monday? How? How in the world did you do it?
Clearly, within our community, and I appreciate all the other guests here, but the essential element in our community is that we have to organize. Indeed, one time, if folks remember the 60s, you had to organize to survive. So indeed, local pastors in the Upton community have been organizing. We've been out meeting with people, talk with them. That's been going on now for about 2 months. We have talked to over 2,400 persons. We had a meeting on October the 27th with 1,500 persons.
I talked to Earlene B. Wilson last night. She said she known you since you was a young buck.
That's right.
And
That's
that you've
right.
been doing this all along, this community organizing thing.
Well, I was brought up in the process. I must commend my predecessor, Reverend Bernard Dobson. He said to us that essentially Sunday is the gravy, but Monday is the work. And so, indeed, in our communities, I'm blessed to have colleagues with me who understand that you have to engage the community. The community has to be involved. It makes no sense that there is a $1.6 billion project coming into the Upton community, and indeed, the community is not engaged in the process.
Put that dollar amount one more time.
$1.6 billion, which is the renovation and new development of the State Center. State Center there, which we know at 301 West Preston Street, the state office buildings. A reason why I have a real passion for this is that growing up in that community, I remember when that was a neighborhood. And I remember through urban renewal, the state came in, wiped out an African American community, the businesses, and then put these state office buildings there. And now, some 45 years later, the state wants to renovate this, use a private developer to restore this area. But indeed, I believe the community that's indigenous, the people that live there, should be intricately involved in the project.
Oh, I agree. And so, did they not put out a RFP to African American businesses?
One of the things that happens indeed in the government process is that they have ways of processing funds so that they get around bid processes. I mean, I think it's a way that business does business, but I think we have to be very cautious. We have to be very aware. Some of the laws in which we thought are safeguards for us, you still doesn't. It means that you still have to be vigilant. So we've been vigilant on this process for 5 years. We've watched it. We've been engaged in it, and we believe that it was time for the community to step up and to act, and for its voices to be heard.
And so, who is this gentleman sitting next to me?
I'm just some random guy that's tagging along with
Oh,
Reverend
that
Al.
was awful cute.
uh, I'm just some random guy that's tagging along with Reverend
Go
Al.
ahead.
Not with that shirt and tie
I know
combo,
exactly. That
cuz.
is
I'm
not
just
random.
I'm Todd Yeary. I'm the senior pastor of Douglas Memorial, and I'm one of the colleagues that has joined with Reverend Hathaway in this commitment to revitalizing the Upton community.
Now help me out. Marion Bascom's name comes to mind.
I call him Granddaddy. He's the
That's
senior pastor emeritus.
Kurt Schmo come to mind.
Absolutely.
Okay, Madison Avenue,
Right,
correct?
corner of Lafayette and Madison. Best church right
It
there on the
can't
corner.
be done without the city's help,
What can be?
the project.
It can't be
Well, I
done
understand.
without some participation from the city. Here's the issue. Whether you're looking at it from a city level or state level or private developer level, none of it can be done without the community's participation in it. And the days of us sitting idly by and watching self-interest at the political level come in and dictate what's going to happen in the community, those days are long gone. The demonstration of the 1,200 people that came to express the interest, the 2,500 people that have been processed, the almost 800 people that showed up at State Center last Monday is an indication that when we start talking about an education economy, these are the folks that got crapped on while education was transitioning for somebody else. And so here's the real deal. What are you going to do, Frank Conway or anybody else that's going to be in politics, to help those that have been left out and left behind in the process, as opposed to just assuming that these black folks are going away?
Well, Red, let me say this to both of you. On this show, I have been at times critical of the clergy. Why? Because the preachers come up in the pulpit every 4 years. And y'all, not saying you in particular, but y'all let them in there and never stick them up.
Well, let me just say this to you, and I'm
And I mean to stick them up. You want our vote, you want to be in the pulpit, what you going to do for us?
I'm real pleased that Reverend Dr. Todd Geary is here. If you look closely at our city and its involvement in terms of the church community, Union Baptist Church, Douglas Memorial Community Church, has always been at the forefront of issues that impacted people.
It's just been a minute since we heard from the faith community. I mean, last we heard churches getting burned down, people driving Bentleys, all kinds of scandals. Eddie Long, why you got the tight T-shirt on? You know what I mean? Help me out.
Well, we've got to be careful that we don't get sucked into the sensationalism.
Right.
The larger churches are always lifted up as the example, but the ones that anchor our communities are the ones that never really make the news. And if you go back and you look at smaller churches that have been the mainstays of communities through several gentrifying actions, are still the ones there that the people turn to when they are particularly in need.
Sharon Baptist comes to mind, Perkins Square comes to mind, New Shiloh comes to mind, Israel comes to mind. But then you got these guys that want to move Frank out to the county. I thought the church's business was right there in the heart of the hood. Pennsylvania Avenue, Drew Hill Avenue, Madison Avenue.
Well, the church's business is to actually take the gospel wherever the gospel needs to be taken. That's the church's business.
Well, we got dope lines on the avenue. They got dope lines out in Marysville and Pikesville.
And I hear you. But as opposed to critiquing the method, we have to look at what the outcomes are. Where's the church really making a difference? This is really the action that we've gravitated to because we see the actual need there as it relates to jobs. It doesn't matter whether or not your education, Brother Conway, is actually correct. It can come in a variety of ways. In this way, we're going to educate through training folks to be able to work on the project that's going to be right in their backyard.
So how does one go about inserting themselves into this project? I mean, this sounds like a real movement. How do people help? How do we galvanize the entire community to focus on these issues?
Well, I believe that first you have to realize, and I hear you, Sister Jews, that in organizing, you have to eliminate within a local community anonymity. And so the hard work is that you have to talk to everybody in the community. You have to talk to the young people who feel like they're left out. You have to talk to the older people. And that hard work is not publicized. That's the dirty work. That's
Right.
the heavy lifting.
Right.
And so how do you get engaged? In our community, one of the tragedies of our community is anonymity, is that we allow people to function in our communities and don't ask them questions.
Exactly.
And so you don't talk to them. You don't call them by name. You label them and you give them, you ostracize them. We have to create an environment in our community where everybody recognizes that they have worth, also that they recognize that their participation is essential to make our city grow. No one is expendable. Everybody is necessary. So indeed, how does one get engaged? There we were we used Union Baptist Church because we have a cyber center there. We call that the kind of war room. There are persons there every day talking to people in the community. People are coming in through the Harvey Johnson Center every day, talking to them. We are talking to people. We are organizing them. From our meeting on October the 27th through November the 19th, we had people in groups of 100 meeting 3 times a day, every day during those weeks, talking to them about their involvement and participation in the community. One of the most fantastic things that I saw on November 22nd was that you had rival gangs on the same corner for the same purpose participating in this march.
Wow, that's impressive.
You got to commend these pastors for their philosophy. And when I don't know my background in economics, so when I hear people talk about community development, economic development from the ground up, and not necessarily from a top-down tax breaks, incentives for the investor class, again, I commend both of you brothers for your efforts.
Well, clearly. I heard the Honorable Frank Conway say that the city's role is important. Yes, government is important, but here's the thing that I always remember. Martin Luther King said this. Martin Luther King said that the church cannot be neither the master nor the servant of the state. Mm-hmm. The church must be the conscience of the state. And indeed, if the church does not reach its prophetic voice, then it becomes an irrelevant social club. And I believe that the church has to regain its prophetic voice to speak truth to power, not in a theoretical sense, but in a very real sense.